Based on Washington DC metro station designs, this will be an overview of how I made this waffle style architectural element. There are probably other ways to do it, but at least with this approach, I try to keep it more or less modifier based. And in terms of shading, even though it is not perfect, it doesn't show any deal breaker level artifacts, so I hope it will get the job done. So let's take a look, going backwards to the base shape, disabling all of these modifiers. And I will show you some tips and tricks that I learned along the way. So for this base shape, I built a curve, and this is done with Shift A curve, circle, but not the first one, this simple curve circle, rotating it 90. With X, I delete one, the lower vertex, X segment, so you can break it open. Also got rid of the last one because with the mirror I only need to work on that part. And now moving these points and these handles, you can create the curvature. I did it based on the sizes that I know of the train itself, and it's just an approximation because I couldn't find the original plans. So if you select it, here is what I have in global view if you want to copy, in case you want to create this exactly as it is. 6 meters tall, this is where is the handle. It's 1 meter down because of the platform height. And this is here, so it gives more or less this shape. I'm going to duplicate it, and the problem with this, I'm going to convert it to mesh. The problem with this is that the edges have different length based on where they are. If you want them, as I did, to make them the same length, select everything, right click, loop tools. If you don't have this here, it's edit, preferences, add-ons, loop tools. So check that, and now you will have it here. So loop tools, space, and it will make all of the edges the same length. And for the width of this, I wanted to make it 1.5 times the width of this edge. So how do you know the width of this edge? Is with another add-on, edit preferences, edit mesh tools. So check this one. And going back to this, let's select this one. Edit, this will appear here, mesh tools, edit edge tools, set edge length, and you will have here the exact dimensions of this edge. So Ctrl C to copy, select everything with A, E to extrude, Y to extrude on the Y-axis, Ctrl V to paste with a little multiplication. I'm going to put here 1.5, and let's go with the arrow minus 1 minus that. So now we have the base shape that I have here, and based on this I duplicated it. I'm going to do it directly on this one, but you will want to duplicate it for the cutters that you saw. So the cutters are these pieces. To get them, select everything, I to inset. Normally it will look like this. Press again I to make it in for one inset for each face, and let's say 0.15 should be enough. P, selection. So this now made another object, so I'm going to delete this one, and for these ones select everything, Alt E, extrude faces along normals. I'm going to go down a bit, let's say 0.3, and select everything, not everything, select the outer faces, Alt E, extrude along normals, let's say 0.5. So now I need to get rid of all of this. So with Alt to select the entire loop, and Shift Alt, I'm going to select all of them. X, dissolve edges. Now selecting again the top faces, scale. Now this works nice, but maybe depending on the pivot point, maybe it could be, I'm not sure if it's by default medium point, So you get something like this, and if you wonder why, it's because this median point you need to select individual origins. So now scale, let's say 0.75. I'm going to select with edge selection one of these edges, select similar length, and in the end panel item, set the bevel weight to 1. So from here, let's take a look at the finished result. With bevel modifier set to weight, so the weight for the edges that we just put to 1, it will add this bevel here. You could experiment with more, with less, depends on the level of detail you want, depends on visual artifacts. Sometimes with 24, let's say, it gives you a problem, but with 12 or 18 or whatever, it doesn't. So, and for the boolean, so this is what we had, let's say, and how do you cut it with the cutter scatter, very intuitive naming scheme. This is made duplicating the first curve. So I duplicated it, played a bit with the placement of these handles. Now it's just a matter of adding a subdivision to make it smooth and a solidify to add some thickness to it. And you may see that it's on the side here because it gave me some problems with shading. So I moved it a bit on the sides and the problems went away. I also changed a bit the scale. This is because depends on how these edges interact with the shape. Blender sometimes doesn't like it, so just moving it a bit, sometimes it solves the problems. What else? Okay, going back to the arc segment, I added first a mirror subdivision to make it smooth. The subdivision is set to 4, so it's really smooth and it has enough geometry, so it causes less artifacts. Again, depends on actual shapes and all that. Solidify to make it, I think it's 0.5 meters. Boolean set to difference for the cutters, and the cutters at that point also have a boolean to cut this shape out of them. Then I added a bevel to round all of the edges. And the problem with the bevel is that it also adds or smooths the outer edges, and I didn't want that. So I created this big rectangle, slightly narrower. No, in fact, the width of this, what is it? It's exactly the same as the original one that I did with taking the length and multiplying by 1.5. But I added a couple of centimeters to the sides here, so this goes out of that length, and with this cutter I have it here in the side boolean. You saw that the bevel went away. This gives solves some problems with the array, and it keeps also simpler because we don't need it as such. The smooth by angle is needed because otherwise you have this kind of nice problems. So smooth by angle is the new way in Blender 4.1 to shade smooth. Is default 30, and then you have the weight in normal, which doesn't change much now, but if you array it, so for the array 64, I think it needs more for the actual train station, but just as an example. And the problem I have, it shows this. So this is solved with the weight in normal modifier, and it needs to be after the array because otherwise it still has some little problem. But if you put it after the array, everything looks perfect. So in terms of shading, I also had an additional one, a part of the ones I mentioned. When I went to render mode, I had these little lights on each of the segments, and that is fixed going in edit mode to each of these, selecting this part, right click, mark sharp, and I think I also added mark sharp to the lower part, and it's fixed. And I think and I hope I covered it. So if you found this useful, please leave it a like and subscribe for more. Until next time, thanks for watching, take care.